A warm good afternoon to all of you. It's a very proud moment for the University of Hyderabad. We have our prominent alumni today on this occasion. Welcome, respected Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji, former permanent representative of India to UN, and Dean Kautilya School of Public Policy, Hyderabad, and our alumni. He did his MA in Political Science in the batch 1980 to 82. Professor Syed Ainul Hasan ji, Vice-Chancellor, Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Professor B.J. Rao, Vice-Chancellor. Professor R.S. Sarraju, Pro-Vice-Chancellor. Professor E. Haribabu, former Pro-Vice-Chancellor, University of Hyderabad and member Steering Committee for G-20 University Connect, Research and Information System for Developing Countries. Shri Syed Ali ji, Consultant RIS for Developing Countries. Distinguished guests, faculty members, officers, staff, students, friends from press and media, ladies and gentlemen. To start the program, we have a theme video on G20. At the outset, we will play the theme video and then we start our formal program.
India, home to 1.3 billion people, is a confluence of religions, traditions, and customs. A thriving global center of technology and the world's largest democracy. As one of the oldest civilizations in the world with a rich cultural heritage and diversity, and as the fifth largest economy in the world, India is proud to assume the presidency of G20. As the country blooms into a new era, we look to another poignant symbol for humanity to emerge victorious from challenges. The lotus, the national flower of India, represents our history and culture and symbolizes spirituality, fruitfulness, wealth, and knowledge. And that's the inspiration for India's G20 logo design. The design, rendered in saffron, white, green, and blue, is drawn from the national flag of India. The 7 petals in the logo signify the 7 seas and the coming together of 7 continents at G20 India 2023. Sitting above the lotus is a representation of the earth, reflecting India's pro-planet approach to life and seeing the world as one family. From this, we derive the theme for G20 India 2023, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one family, one future. A theme that brings the G20's focus on shared global growth, while being in harmony with nature. G20 India 2023. One earth, one family, one future.
It's my privilege to invite the dignitaries on the dais. I request Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji to kindly come on the dais. I request Professor B.J. Rao, Vice-Chancellor, to kindly accompany him. I request Professor Syed Ainul Hasan ji to come on the dais. I request Professor Sarraju ji to accompany him. I invite Professor E. Haribabu, former Pro-Vice-Chancellor and member Steering Committee, to come on the dais. Shri Syed Ali ji, Consultant RIS, to come on the dais. I now request Vice-Chancellor to welcome Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji, our alumni, with a bouquet. On the occasion of G20 University Connect series on engaging young minds, I now invite Professor R.S. Sarraju, Pro Vice-Chancellor, for his welcome remarks.
Honorable Vice-Chancellor P.J. Rao garu, Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin Sahab, Professor Hussain Sahab, MANUU ke Vice-Chancellor, Professor Haribabuji, Member G20 University Connect, Syed Alizi, Consultant, so University Connect. So this is really a matter of pride for all us as a country. We are holding the presidency of prestigious G20. Basically, this group of G20 is a forum for international economic cooperation, and it will play an important role in shaping and strengthening different countries and strengthening the global governance and international economic issues. Actually, India traditionally has been telling about this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's an ideal, Earth as one family, and we want to develop, we want to bring our future to present with close ties with different countries. Several occasions, different countries came together. In 2005, we used to discuss about BRICS, and still earlier, we used to discuss about non-aligned movements and G7. So many countries came together. It's a struggle for development for ourselves. But still, a kind of situation is prevailing all over the country right now. So as such, the slogan, a theme, One Earth, One Family, One Future, has become essential since we are aiming for an inclusive and sustainable world. That is the basic object. We have to live with the environment all over the globe. We have to live in harmony. So we have to develop together. This togetherness is the basic goal. Now we are heading towards these knowledge-based societies in this globalized era. And education institutions are also playing a very vital role. Youth is to be encouraged in this direction to think about international relations in this present context. So actually, I was in Embassy of India, Moscow for 3 years, sir. I saw there was a university in Mogimok called, and I saw Abhay Thakur also, with whom I worked in Moscow. So I taught in that university also. There used to be a language department. I am from humanities and language. About 600 languages are taught in that international university. From the beginning of +2, they used to train the diplomats in that particular university to work all over the world in different countries. There used to be a section of for Asiatic countries or Middle East or Western countries, European countries like this. And as you know, their network is very wider network, and their instruction levels are very good. And still we are, as you know, studying international relations along with political science or sociology, or a kind of paper, strategic studies and all. So now we reached that stage where we have to establish a university also to have to study these international relations as a subject, and we have to inculcate interest in the Indian youth. Still, since we are heading, leading different countries. Yes, of course, in leading several countries, as you know, as a diplomat, there are several problems, and sometimes the exchange of knowledge transfer is also a big problem. But still, India is heading in different areas. We are confident that we'll lead different countries. And I welcome you all, sir. I am also eager to listen to you to how to go ahead with our international relations. So thank you. I welcome you once again from University of Hyderabad. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your welcome remarks. You all will agree with me that of late, there has been a lot of emphasis on a word, internationalization. Whether it is the document of National Education Policy 2020 or the document of Institution of Eminence, everywhere there is a focus on internationalization. I now request our Vice-Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, to address us on internationalization and role of G20.
Thank you and good afternoon to all of you. I want to specially welcome our very distinguished alumnus, Syed Akbaruddin ji. And I also want to welcome my very, very good friend, Ainul Hasan Sahab, my own colleague, Professor Sarraju Garu, and a young G20 Connect sitting on the dais, Syed Ali ji, my senior colleague, Professor Haribabu Garu, and Registrar Garu. G20 is a way of bringing the world to India. G20 almost represents about 60 to 70% of global population as well as the wealth. So when we become president of G20, we are playing the role of Atithi Devo Bhava. Very auspicious occasion that we take up this role this year from December onwards, December 22 onwards to November 23, full year, and we profile ourselves to G20 community. This is our way of getting the world to our doorstep. This is better late than never. We have always considered that the whole earth is one family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Therefore, it is but natural that we welcome G20 wholeheartedly and fully. G20 brings us not only a large section of humanity on the globe, but also enormous opportunities and responsibilities. Opportunities because India being the 5th largest economy and probably one of the most aspirational countries in the world today, we can not only showcase our prowess to G20, but also in some very tangible manner guide G20 into a newer model. In the current times where modernity is taking over by the minute, there are very, very important challenges. One of the most important challenges that stares at us every second is the growth models that we follow are intrinsically built in with damaging effects. Any growth model that you can anywhere in the world, every growth model has this enormous capability of giving rise to environmental impact. I think this is the right time for India to come into the fold of G20 and give a slightly different model where we look at everything with equanimity and try to think of growth not as real physical monetary growth alone, but the growth that preserves the humanity. In our growth model, there is preservation. In every other growth model, there is depreservation. It is only in our culture, in our thinking mode, in the way we live our lives, there is preservation. Preservation of not just ourselves, but preservation of every creature. So the way we look at the whole setup with equanimity has this intrinsic power to bring in growth with perhaps very, very minimal environmental footprint as well as environmental destruction. That's number one take home that India will give to the rest of the world in this international meet. The other take home that India has always been championing is that we are not what we are visible. The whole existence is not just what is visible. It is not just what is physical. It is also what is non-physical. India is the only civilization which can handhold the world, rest of the world, and tell that the physical existence is as important as the non-physical existence that we are all trained in. Aham Brahmasmi comes from that idea. We are not just what we see around us. We are what we, in fact, even do not see around us. So this ability to take the humanity along the path of non-physical existence that impacts our daily lives is another important take-home that India can convey. In fact, we are what our thoughts are. It is not what we look like. It is what our thoughts are. So these are the two most important take-homes that India can bring on board for the rest of the humanity, where we can harmonize the current models of growth and development and technology with models that promote inner growth. Now, the G20 community will come in full hog. They will visit every nook and corner of the country. Several universities are active participants in this. We are now probably the 7th interaction in this chain of university interactions that G20 is going to do with us. And in this interaction, they would look at our aspirational abilities. They would look at our abilities to think out of box. They will also look at our abilities to bring in the diversity that we are intrinsically part of. And they would wonder why and how India as a beautiful nation exists in spite of so much of diversity here. What is that secret? I think they would certainly want to crack that mystery. We are a country of more than 200 languages, an uncountable number of cuisines. Every part of the country looks different from every other part, but we are so deeply bonded with one another as a single nation. That will be very, very foreign to many, many G20 members, because most G20 members are representatives of very, very homogeneous systems. This is one model they would look at, and they would wonder, and they would go home with an important take home that it is this model that ultimately will rescue the humanity, because ultimately humanity is diversity. And we represent, as a subcontinent, a model of humanity coexisting, living happily, harmoniously. So if somebody can appreciate India, I think that person would have the ability to appreciate the world. So therefore, internationalization in G20 Connect with India is a very important theme. It would evolve this whole year as we go. We must feel strongly bonded to this process so that we become active participants in this G20 Connect. We have distinguished visitors here, Akbaruddin ji. I'm sure he will give us a real world perspective of what G20 should mean to us. And we are all ears to hear him and learn from him, and maybe take a leaf out of what he says, and then go further in this G20 journey. I want to again thank Ali Sahab for for choosing University of Hyderabad as G20 Connect, and we will do all our best with his very smiling, inviting hand-holding that he's doing, and we will proceed further. Thank you very much, and welcome all of you again to this lecture series. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have focused on education, economy, trade, commerce, besides also touching upon spirituality, culture, unity in diversity, and inclusivity. Friends, without wasting any time, I move on to the special lecture that we have organized today. And I wish to invite Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji, former permanent representative of India to UN and Dean Kautilya School of Public Policy, Hyderabad, and our alumni, University of Hyderabad, for the special lecture on G20 and role of Indian presidency. With a big round of applause. It's all yours, sir.
Honorable dignitaries on the dais. There are two vice-chancellors here, two pro-vice-chancellors, one registrar and one from the RIS. And I am, in a way, tired and retired diplomat. So the IQ level there is very high. I am, if I may say so, somebody who can't match their abilities to articulate different aspects of India. But since I've been requested by RS to engage with all of you, I thought let me try and connect in a different way. And that way is that, it's very difficult for people like me who came to this place, I think, 40 years ago, to now connect with all of you, because this is like my Rip Van Winkle moment. I'm certain all of you know about Rip Van Winkle, when he slept and got up and suddenly he sees the world has changed. And that's what I've seen among all of you. I was, like many of you, a student here. I passed out in 1982. I think the last time I came here must be 83 or early 84 to collect my convocation degree certificate. And then they also gave me a medal. So that's my last remembrance of this place. After that, I didn't come. And so if you see what has changed between then and now, at that time, tweeting was what birds used to do. Today, all of you are tweeting. And when they said apps was what we used to be told to apply to American universities or other universities. But now apps are something on your phone. And cloud was in the sky, not owned by Amazon or Microsoft or anything. So you can see how out of touch I am with all of you. So you will pardon me if my presentation is also a little bit out of touch, because I was told, Ambassador, don't talk high politics or something, give them in bits and bytes. So I decided I will have a small little PowerPoint so that you understand and I can connect with all of you. So that's by way of introduction. Of course, you are very clever people. So the first map, if you see the world, is about the G20 members. So I'm going to ask you questions because that's what young people are supposed to do, answer questions rather than listen to me too much. So my first plan went out of action because it was something you already watched. I'm not going to show you now because you already watched. It's the same video that was going to be shown. I will not show you. So let's now look at G20. What is this monster called G20? Who is it? When did it start? Where did it start? What did it do? What does it do? Why is it important? And how is it being organized? So let me start. It's easy. Who are it? All of you know there are 19 countries. Is there a 20th country in it? Right. Pardon? Correct. So you got that first minus plus one. Now my question is, it's not so easy to get through. These are the countries you know. Now, these are the countries who are coming, who are India's guests. So G20 is not only about the 20, there are about, one is a permanent guest, the remaining India has decided to call them. So there are another 7 of them, plus the permanent guest. Then you may think, oh, it's G20, already 28. There are all these international organizations coming. So there are 40 plus entities that are engaged. So G20 is nice to know in a name, but actually there are double that important entities that are engaged. So that all of you need to remember that. It's the names change. It's like, I don't know whether you heard of a group called G77. Right? How many members does G77 have? Right. 130 plus. Diplomats, once they name things, they don't like to change. So G20 is already, see how many more entities are involved, but it's called G20. Just remember that. Now, other than that, there are going to be other elements of outreach. Like you heard, one outreach here with universities, but there's going to be a labor 20, business 20, youth 20, civil 20. There's also a think tank 20, which the RIS and Mr. Ali represent. So there are many such things. So there are many ways of connecting. It's not only a government to government issue. It's going to be a connect of all of society. And that's what's different from the G20 compared to the non-aligned movement, compared to the United Nations, etc. It engages societies in diverse ways, very different from other entities. Just keep that in mind as we go forward. Outreach is a key aspect. Now, the tough question. Who is going to be the next member or important? We said G20 is 20 number, although it's addition. Think about who is going to be the next. China is already there, madam. If you get this right, correct. African Union, it is going to move from the permanent guest list to hopefully becoming like the European Union, a full member. I'm glad that many of you are keeping in touch with what is happening. So here's my next tough question. It never ends. When was G20 formed? Pardon? And why is this important? This is the year I passed out from here. I just thought I'll fool you, but you got it right. Okay. Tougher coming. Who started? Where did it first meet? Where? You seem to know a little bit, not the full thing. Where did the G20 first meet? You said 1999, correct. Not 1982. Not 2008. Many people think it's 2008. That's why. Pardon? Now you are using ChatGPT. Don't use ChatGPT. Either the answer should come out or using ChatGPT. Right. Berlin. Now, what is the Canada connect to it? Quickly, don't use ChatGPT. Pardon? No, Berlin. She already said. Berlin was 1999. There is a Canada connect. So why was the G20 formed? Economic crisis. Right. So what is the issue about Canada there? There was a Canadian finance minister called Paul Martin. He decided that what was happening in 1998 was that there was what you saw as an economic banking crisis, that people who had taken loan from different countries in the developing world were not able to give back. So they said, who had paid them money? It was Western banks. Western banks was G7, which was Canada was then the president, and Paul Martin decided, let's expand and engage the others who are there, and that's why the G20 was formed in 1999 in Berlin. It got elevated to the summit level in 2008. So don't make the mistake that G20 started in 2008 in Washington, D.C. And it's now going to be held in 2023 in Delhi. Let's go to the next area. I know all of you are aware of the agenda. What was the agenda? No, that is the agenda today. This is we are talking when it started. Right. Because the first issue is that cross-boundary matters need to be discussed in a cross-boundary manner. So if you think climate change can only be discussed by all of us here, or between Bangladesh and India we should not have, because there is a boundary we have drawn, it doesn't go, if there is a problem there, it doesn't come. No. Cross-boundary issues by their very nature needed to be discussed at a political level. So they decided that let's start with macroeconomic policy. However, this was 2008, and once politicians join, you know what happens. They start discussing everything like all friends join and discuss. It's not confined only to macroeconomic issues. It started expanding, and what did it do? It now discusses sustainable development. Then there was a pandemic, so health. Then there was climate and environment. There was issue. There is financial architecture coming up. We just heard about debt crisis. I'm just putting 5 ... So can you tell me how many sectors are there in G20 now? No, 5 is only. I didn't want to go down because it will take me more than half an hour there. Anybody? How many sectors? There is energy, there is food, there is, pardon? Pardon? No, I'm saying total. 17 is, you are saying SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals, we'll leave that. I'm saying the sectors, health, food, water, electricity, energy, renewable energy, there are some fertilizers, there are 40. So remember, the agenda has expanded from 1 to 40. That's what bureaucrats and diplomats do. We keep expanding the agenda because the world is more complex than we thought it was. Economy doesn't mean only economic issues. It means other transdisciplinary issues. So it's now expanded to 40. Now tell me, what are the achievements of this group of 20 meeting? Tell me one big achievement. You know all the facts about it. Tell me these achievements. This is really depressing because you got many things right. Canada, almost you came to Paul Martin. Tell me one achievement. It started meeting in 1998. The summits met from 2008. So are you telling for 14 years leaders are meeting and not a single achievement you can remember? Okay. Let me tell you, since you don't want to remember. In 2008-9, the global financial system was collapsing. Like you saw in more recently, that there was no economic growth during COVID. So 2008 and 9, what happened was, all the G20 leaders gathered together and said, we will provide 2% stimulus, economic stimulus of 2% in each of our countries. Do you know how much it totaled? What could have been the total stimulus of that G20? $4 trillion. 4 trillion. Not million, not billion, 4 trillion. That is what it took to save the economic system from collapse in 2008. US, which generally is the biggest economy, is about 25%. The US said, we will do it, but people said, yes, you do it. It's your problem. You started it. The contagion started in your country. You solve it. It's like saying climate change. You started it. Now I'm not going to do anything. It doesn't work like that. All of you have to work, whether it is climate, environment, financial transfers, everything is cross-boundary in nature. So you will have to work together. So they worked together and restored that. So they also agreed that next time we shouldn't have the same problem. So there is an entity called the IMF, International Monetary Fund, that economic students will know, even political science students. That used to assess every country and tell, okay, once a year, this is what your shortcomings are. But, countries are powerful entities. They'll say, IMF, get lost. I'm not going to come and take loan from you. You cannot get to it. So one of the achievements of the G20 was they will assess each other so that shortcomings will be known in advance. They can take. So India was amongst the first countries which assessed the US as part of that. So otherwise, US was saying, I am never going to go to IMF. I don't want to be assessed. But they realized that when you need, in difficulty, you need partners, so they agreed to it. So these procedures came into being. Financial reforms of the World Bank and the IMF. Previous to that, there were certain quotas which were fixed in the 1940s. The world economy has changed since then. You cannot have the same quotas because everybody's share of the economy has changed. So they agreed to have those financial global reforms. During the pandemic, the G20 agreed that, look, these countries are not going to be able to pay back. The rest, G20 are big countries, they are economically sound countries, but the rest cannot. So all of them agreed that they will not insist on payments during that period. It's not much. It still says, it doesn't say you wipe off your debts, but it says that for the 2 years or 3 years, you don't need to pay, they will reschedule it. Otherwise, just imagine, in the pandemic, many of us who stayed at home, you don't have other sources of living. If you say continue to pay, you'll have a challenge. And that's what they did at a global level. So don't underestimate the abilities of these countries to work together. And that's why I want to show. This is the most important slide that I'm going to show. So look at this. This is the G20 countries from 1990 till 2020. Consistently, 80% of the global domestic product is from the G20. So we all think that the G7 is the most powerful economic group. Look how that group's abilities are coming down in economic terms. So in one word, now you know why they want G20. The G7 realized that it cannot manage itself. It's going down in economic terms. There are global outputs coming from Asia, which are better off. So they have gone from about 60% to about 40-some%. The G20 has remained where it is. Consistently, it goes a little bit up or down or something, but that's about it. So you can see purely in economic terms why the G20 is important. 80% of global economic output, 75% of global trade, 66% of the population, 60% of the land surface. Now you can understand why this is an important organization or an entity. There is no other, any combination you do. G7 was the only challenge, but you can see whether you do BRICS, you do Quad, you do any way, you will not come to this calculation. So this is the economic underpinning for the G20. Everything else is important, but all economic students should be happy. Economics is the most important thing in this. Now let's say, what is India's role going to be? All right, sir, this is fine. G20 is doing everything. What is India's role? So, here it comes. In this year, India is going to host 56 cities meetings relating to G20. Never in our history in post-independent India have we had this sort of a thing. Now, again, unlike the UN or the SCO, which we are also going to chair this year. By the way, what is SCO? Very good. Shanghai Cooperation Organization is also, we are chairing it. But there is no other entity of this size which does not have a secretariat. So, if you don't have a secretariat, just imagine if this university was without the registrar and his office. Somebody has to do that. A lot of work is there that somebody has to do there. India does all that work for the G20 this year. That's why it's a big deal. So, it acts as a think tank for the G20. It sets the agenda for the G20. It will push issues. It will build consensus. It is everything. For that 1 year, now, even in my 40 years as a diplomat, there was never such an occasion. And in the next 20 years, in your life, there's not going to be this occasion. Because this comes rotationally, right? But once in a generation maybe. So, this is a once in a generation moment for India. And that's why it's important. And that's why we need all of you to understand, you are not going to forget this year. Again, it's going to be a different experience next year. I remember when I was a small kid here, the Shah of Iran, then there's a large Iranian community here. The Shah of Iran came here, and that was my first exposure to a foreign leader. This is 1969. All of you were not born, except for those in the front row maybe. But all of you not. But I remember that. So you will all remember for the rest of your lives that 2023 is the most important year in our post-independent history of engaging with the outside world. There is no doubt about it. As I said, this opportunity comes once in a while. So what are India's priorities? I'm certain you know it, but I'll run through them quickly so that you don't forget about it. Green development, climate, finance, and life. So the Vice-Chancellor, in a very sophisticated manner, touched on life. Can you tell me what is life? Pardon? Right, what does it mean? Right, so we don't eat and throw plastic away. We don't drink and throw things away. We need to be more sustainable in our livelihood. Why is it? Because there is a carbon content in everything we do. So if you have your lifestyles in a manner which is harmonious with nature, then it's a more sustainable lifestyle. We have all aped the West. When I was growing up, there was no plastic bottle. In this university, there was no plastic bottle. We used to just go there to the tap, drink the water. Quite comfortable. I'm still above 60. I haven't had a problem. So, but all of you are plastic babies. I don't know how much of plastic has gone ingested into your systems. That said, so that's going to be one of the most important outcomes, because thinking of India and our Prime Minister is that these can only be through people's participation. It is not through governments, delegates, diplomats that you can change lifestyles. It is through a concerted outreach, and so you are going to be part of whether G20 is successful or not. You are responsible. You don't perform well, don't blame India in a generic sense, because you are as important to the success of the G20 as diplomats are, or those who are leaders are, etc. Okay, I'm just leaving at life, but climate finance is a big, big issue. We can come to that if any of you want to ask questions. Green development, again, is linked with sustainable lifestyle. I will not get into it, but those are the three big things. Growth. You know, we need to grow rapidly to accommodate all your aspirations. We are an aspirational country. So without resilient growth, we are nothing. We, in our lifestyles, we were seeing, just talking about how many changes have happened in our generation, in our lifetime. If somebody had told me that there is a smartphone, I would have laughed at him and said, get lost, go to the cuckoo's nest. But we have seen these changes, and you are going to be watching multiple changes which are much, much more than all this. So growth is for us key. Digital transformation, you know about digital public infrastructure that we are building, etc., which is today, even the United States doesn't have the digital public goods that we have. The UPI, you go to the US, they will say, okay, you can use a credit card. Here, you go to our market, even the beggar will say, pay me by QR code. Or I was seeing the other day, during the Sankranti festivals, they bring the sacred bull and they take him around. They are putting a QR code there to pay. So you can see that it is how digital technology has seeped into our lives. We wouldn't have ever thought this. Even you wouldn't be believing. I remember when Aadhaar came, when I was talking to the UN, they said it is not possible for 1 billion people to have a card. 1.4 billion now have, most of them have a card. So don't dare to dream big. That's the bigger issue here. Right. SDGs, today, according to statistics, SDGs, somebody was saying 17 big goals. We are to achieve them by 2030. Do you know what is the shortfall going to be in reaching SDGs? How many billions, millions, or more than that? 4 trillion shortfall. So that means one of the goals of the SDGs, what is goal number 1, if anybody knows? Right, abolition of poverty. They say that as of today's projections, in 2030, 7% of the world will still be below poverty level. And you know, that means what it means for our country. If you put 7% of our people under poverty level, you will see what it is. Which means more than 100 million people will remain under poverty level. So, accelerating, that's another goal for us. Multilateral institutions for the 21st century, this I can speak for the whole day. I will not say if any of you want to ask. Basically saying that the world of 1945 is not the world of today, and therefore you must change and adapt and adjust. And 1 billion plus people need to be accommodated in that and given a space commensurate with their status. Finally, women-led development. Do you know, if we allow at the present trajectory, how long is it going to take for gender equity in the world? Guess. What? 1,000 years? No. Don't talk in thousands, please. You are all of those goals are feeling so, this thing, 1,000 years, no. But it's not going to be in your lifetime, sorry. Pardon? No, your lifetime, 50 years, you're a young man. You will get 50 years, don't worry. So it is going to take 170 years just if you go at a normal progression. We can't afford that. We cannot allow half of our population not to feel on par with the rest of the half. So clearly that's another goal. So what are the tracks that we are following in the G20? Do you know the Sherpa track? No? You know this gentleman? You know his name, but you don't know what he is doing. Sherpa, right. So that's the Sherpa track. There is, our finance minister is the finance track. So diplomats, they like to pigeonhole everything into boxes. So one is the Sherpa track, one is the finance track. 40 sectors I told you. How many meetings? No, 56 cities. No, Delhi will have more. Delhi always more. Hyderabad will also have more than one. So, 40 sectors, how many meetings? Yes, 200 plus. 200 plus meetings. Pardon? Yes, it covers every state in India. 40 meetings under the finance track and 160 meetings approximately under the Sherpa track. 1 or 2 meetings here or there. They won't be under any track like foreign ministers. They don't like to be under Sherpa or finance. They like to be separate. But broadly, 200 meetings, 56 cities, 40 sectors. Just imagine the gargantuan effort that is being done here. Now tell me, all right, sir, this is all right. This is for the world. What does it mean for India? You are talking economics, so what does it mean for India economically or otherwise? Number one, it will make all of you understand globally that you are linked with the globe, that what you do has an impact elsewhere, what somebody else does has an impact. Till today, how many of you knew, I mean not today, till a year ago, you thought Ukraine was some country far away. What happens there does not impact me. When the oil prices started going, your motorcycle was, you had to pay more for petrol. Suddenly you remembered, Arey, this country which is so far off. When friends of yours who were studying, they had to come back, you realize what it is to bring them back from there. When prices of agricultural products started going up. So, please be clear that foreign policy is not foreign, far away, nothing to do with domestic. Gone are the days. In an intertwined world, you will, what impacts somewhere will have an influence. And a country like us, you are going to be those who are young and when the rest of the world is getting old. So many of you will solve problems for the rest of the world because there are no young people in the rest of the world except in India and Africa. And hopefully with your education, you will do well, not only in India but outside. So start thinking of the world as one family, one unit. That's when you will grow. We are not an insular society which looks only inward, nothing about outside us. So it's important for you to understand that foreign policy is interlinked. What happens here impacts there, what happens there impacts here. Number two, it will help leverage foreign investment into India. So many of the suggestions that we are making is for blended finance. Can somebody tell me what is blended finance? Sort of, but not exactly. So blended finance is not the ORR. That's what public-private partnership is, ORR, the road here. Blended finance is that, governments don't have money now to give more. So what they're doing is the private sector come, use us as a leverage, and then go out and give a loan, blending our whatever we can give, which is already there, no change, and you bring new money. That means there will need to be greater exchange of information between governments and big foundations, between governments and banks, etc. and all, whereby they will be only ready to invest if they know transparently what is the possibility. So it will help leverage foreign investment. Showcase global digital goods. So all of you, I don't know how many of you read papers. Nowadays it's very difficult to read. Nobody's raising hand? Thank you. I know the front will read out back. So today there is a story on 7 countries have asked India that can we use your public digital goods. What is a public digital good? UPI, DigiLocker. There are so many others that are there which you are using, you have taken for granted, including beggars. Co-win platform, yes, absolutely correct. So there are many such things. 7 countries have acted. Our hope is not 7, we will get to 70. Because India is a big laboratory. It can test different kinds of technology and appropriate technology which is useful for everybody else. So far, we have not tapped that market. That is going to happen. Because what can succeed in India in difficult circumstances can succeed elsewhere in the world. It's like saying, I always used to say when I was a young diplomat, I was in Egypt, I drove from Cairo to Sudan border and came back. They said, how did you drive? Egyptians don't drive like this. I said, I'm from India. I know the traffic in India. No question of your Egyptian traffic competing with me. I can manage. Global digital goods are also like that. They succeed in India, they will be a big success elsewhere. Finally, North and South. Let's not forget we are a country which has 400 million people who still don't have access to electricity. You, I, and R are privileged. They are not. So we need to reach out for those who are less privileged. After all, 25 years ago, we were all similarly placed. Today, this financial district where you are there and all is a very snazzy thing. 25 years ago, 40 years ago, when I came to this university, everybody told me, you are mad going and studying in University of Hyderabad. You are located in Usmania University, near the university. Why are you going there? But you can see today, you are saying, oh, I have the facilities here. So the point is, let us not forget our origins. We have people here. India is a rich country with large number of poor people. And we need to be understanding of others' needs too. What are the challenges ahead? So you're saying, oh, sir, this is what India will get. This is what are the challenges? That means everything can happen. Can G20 walk the talk? Is it possible? Can they do one big thing? Two big things that will impact the world? Otherwise, diplomats, they wine and dine and talk. So, next is, more importantly, this requires cooperation, coordination, communication. We are in a world which is competing, and competition is the dominant diplomatic way of engagement. So, can G20 negotiate these? That's another issue. Can it overcome lack of equitable representation? If you see the map and see, there is only one country from Africa there. One country, South Africa. India is calling two more countries, Egypt and Nigeria, right? But they are not members. So you can see it's clearly not equitable. Yet, can the G20 be responsive to the needs of those who are not there on the table? India has made that effort to extend its arm and try and have a global South meet. Because we need to tell them that you are not on the table, but you are as important stakeholders, because what we do here impacts you. Because this is our whole concept, that whatever is done somewhere impacts. So we are among the first countries to have done that, reached out to our friends who are not privileged to be on that table, but will be impacted by our decisions, so that they can, their voice can be through us channelized. Can it rise over outcomes? Outcomes are diplomats know to write very nice language. They can communicate very well in this, but we need tangible outcomes. That's what, so that you can remember 2023, Delhi, this is what happened. I gave you 5 examples. So if we can do one thing that is good for the globe, it's fine. If we don't do that, doesn't matter, because it's not about India's success or other success. India is a big country, it will succeed, whether through this way, etc. But it will be the success or otherwise of the global community. That's how you need to look at the G20, not, oh, India is doing this and that is happening. Can we contribute to a cooperative framework? That's the goal. And all of you need to be mindful of that goal to see how you can contribute through your various ways to that cooperative global framework. Thank you very much. I have taken a lot of time. I am giving you 6.5 out of 10 for getting 65% of the things correct. You are all students. I don't know what it translates into A, B, and C. I think we leave it to the registrar to decide and the Vice-Chancellor to decide. I'm grateful for the engagement that you have provided and the platform. And at the end, if there are any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the very motivating lecture that you have given to us. And I'm sure the audience as well as the dignitaries would have enjoyed. And if we have to scale you, we would like to give you 10 out of 10. We are proud that you are alumni of University of Hyderabad, sir. Moving ahead, I now invite Professor Syed Ainul Hasan ji, Vice-Chancellor Maulana Azad National Urdu University, for his special remarks on G-20 and role of Indian presidency. All yours, sir.
Vice-Chancellor, Professor Rao, Akbaruddin Sahab, Pro Vice-Chancellor Sahab, colleagues, students, friends, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You were listening to a distinguished diplomat, scholar, Akbaruddin Sahab, the details and how the world will move in the next couple of months. But as you know, this is high-tech era of science and technology. And aims and objectives of life differ from person to person, individual to individual, group to group, society to society, and nation to nation. How do we combine? And particularly when we are talking about cooperation, global level cooperation in trade and commerce, economy, sustainable development. Now India can play bigger role because India has the capacity. We often talk about the leadership. What is leadership about? When we say that our civilization, our culture, our movement, our democracy, our people, our economy, then definitely we should explore the possibilities, how we should convey it to other side of the world. Are we able to communicate it properly? You know, I remember, I'm not a student of economics or, you see, have something to do with finances and then trade and commerce. I don't belong to a business house. But yes, there are concerns. I have certain questions in my mind. And of course, you do have. What are these questions, in fact? Are we totally depending upon materialism? Or is there any room for human development also? There is bigger human crisis, what we see globally. Is there any answer? You have to answer. And what role India should play at this juncture is a bigger question. When we believe the role of India, democracy is also, sustainable development of democracy is also one of the roles of India. Do we understand democracy? To what extent we understand what is democracy and what are the democratic rights? Freedom is not the only one. And there are certain interconnected bogies also. When we talk about freedom, we should also talk about determination of rights. And then we should move on to the social justice These are interconnected bogies. To what extent world is enjoying? This is also one of the concerns. When we say global participation, do we ignore that there is a participation from within? Do we have to participate from within? And I remember our thinkers, our literatures, our creators, they believed, they wrote, and they suggested ways and means. When they say, बुरा कहे जिसे आलम उसे बुरा समझो, ज़बाने खल्क को नकारे खुदा समझो. I am talking about Mahabir Prasad Dwivedi, Jaishankar Prasad, Ramchandra Shukla. I am talking about Hazari Prasad Dwivedi. Why they were so vehemently uttering these words? Because they wanted people's participation. And without people's participation, you can't build a house. You can't set the clock right. These are the elements India should play a major role for a sustainable development. You know, more than 2000 BC, there was a person who collected fables. It was Panchatantra, Vishnu Sharman. He compiled, collected, and all tantras. Tantra is not policy. Tantra is polity. What should be our polity? It was suggested long years ago. Making friend, first chapter, making friend, how to make friend. Now there is a threat from all sides. Borders are not safe. We should try to recall our ancestors, our history, our forefathers' words, phrases. Making friend, this was the first one. Losing friend, second one. When we lose our friends, what happens? And then, are we here to behave like crow, like owl? We should shun our foolishness. Then the fourth one was loss of gains. When you lose something, it's very difficult to regain it. And then finally, rash action. Don't believe in rash action. Immediately reacting without thinking, without judging, is bad for everyone's health, even for the majority of the people that enjoys the rights. So therefore, we believe, I'm not talking about Panchsheel, but yes, Panchsheel is also important. Respecting each other's rights. This should also come up, you see, if there is a discussion, a discourse on the issue of humanity. And then finally, not taking much time, I believe, and I conclude, I was enjoying thoroughly, you see. Akbaruddin Sahab presented everything. But initial remark of Professor Rao that there are many other concerns. And what are those concerns? And in the words of Einstein, in quote, he says that imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world. So through your imaginations, what you imagine, try to impress upon the entire humanity, entire world. Global appeal is important, and I believe that we, with Indian ethos, would be able, our leader, our Prime Minister would be able to impress upon the large number of countries to follow leadership of India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiriting words. You touched upon imagination, humanity, mankind, and human wealth. Friends, to mark this India's presidency of G20, numerous activities are planned, including a special University Connect series, event being together conducted at 75 universities across the country, where University of Hyderabad being one of them. The University Connect aims at engaging the youth in G20 activities. Even the school students are also getting involved into the special G20 sessions at various schools. For India, the G20 presidency also marks the beginning of Amrit Kal, the 25-year period beginning from 75th anniversary of its independence on 15th August 2022, leading up to a centenary of its independence towards a futuristic, prosperous, inclusive, developed society distinguished by a human-centric approach at its core. Moving ahead, we now have a question-answer session, and I request Sri Syed Aliji to moderate that. Friends, I am sure many of you may be having many questions. We will be able to take few of them. I request Sri Syed Aliji to moderate this, and those who want to ask questions can raise their hands.
Good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon, all of you. As we know, Ukraine and Russia war is going on, and it will complete one year now. And there is a growing rivalry between USA and Russia, and India is actually sandwiched between both these countries. Sandwiched between both these countries, and actually. India has good connections with both these countries. So again, India has also missed some of the UN meetings also. So what is my question is that and world is also fragmented between both these nations. So how India can play a role to bring all these countries and fragmented countries together through this G20 summit, and how it can also protect its own interests and the interest of the global south.
Hello. Yeah. Let's establish some rules for the question and answer rounds. So first of all, thank you all of you for being here, especially distinguished guest, Ambassador Akbaruddin, the Shah of Indian diplomacy, right from the time of being the spokesperson from the MEA to being, playing a central role during the abolition of Section 370. So I would request all of you, we have a great opportunity to really enhance our thinking on foreign policy and on global governance. So keep your questions very pointy. Don't be suggestive with your questions and keep them short. So we are going to take 3 questions and then we are going to shoot them over to our speakers here. So we can go for the second question now. Yeah. Could you just...
Thank you so much for your lecture, sir. I had so many questions to ask with respect to multilateralism and climate financing, etc. But I want to ask you something very personal that ChatGPT couldn't answer me. So, as students of University of Hyderabad or students of India, how do you think we play an important role with the presidency of G20, apart from the actual think tanks that are actually present with respect to Y20 or Think Tank 2020, etc.? How do you think we as students could gather in on an official level or on a policy level? How do you think we could involve? Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello, everybody. I am Avinav from Bihar. Sir, my question is a little out of context, sir. Sir, after the post-COVID world, we have seen that multiple authors have written about it, including C. Rajamohan sir, Shashi Tharoor sir, that bilateral meetings have become more important than the multilateral. What I want to know your view on this. For instance, sir, in the G7, last year G7 in England, after G7 we have seen the Prime Minister's visit to UAE and Germany were more productive than that.
Hi, sir.
Can we take 3 for now and then we open the second round? Sir, would you want to volunteer for any questions or should I just distribute? So the first question on the Ukraine-Russia war, India playing the role, how do you think, Ambassador, I think with your experience in diplomacy, you can take this one.
So it's true that the world that we face today is a fragmented one. It's a divided one. But this is not the first time that the world has seen this. There have been occasions where we've had difficulties and have surmounted them in some way or the other. Now, you have two questions, whether India can play a role. So that's why I said there are multiple ways a country can play a role in. First of all, the G20 is a leaders-led discussion. So all these 120, 200 meetings will channelize finally into a summit meeting. And as some have said, one of the greatest benefits of the G20 is that annually all these leaders go to that meeting. Let me tell you, leaders are all very clever people. They calculate whether there's a benefit or not, like all of us do. So tell me, when did Xi Jinping go to the UN last? You can ask ChatGPT, it will tell you 2015, 7 years. When did Xi Jinping go to the last G20 meeting? 2 months ago. When the meeting was held in 2020, he went there. When it was held in 2018, he held there. Similar with President Putin. So they gain something. And what that something is, this distinction between bilateral and multilateral is an academic discussion. It's in real life, all people try and maximize the opportunities. The G20 provides that platform to maximize opportunities. If there was no G20, there is no bilateral between China and US, for example. You mentioned that the ties between China and US are fraying. But 3 hours meeting they had in Bali. Similarly, the G20 provides that platform, and we shouldn't look at it, okay, this is separate, that is separate. They gain something. They will come, some come only for bilateral meetings perhaps. That's all right. But they cannot then say no to the outcomes of the summit. So my generic view is that let's not distinguish between bilateralism, plurilateralism, multilateralism, minilateralism. I can divide it further also. But look for opportunities to maximize gains of a cooperative nature. And G20 is the best place to do that cooperation. So if we take one target, maybe debt servicing, maybe financing, one target and get it, it will be remembered. So I would think that India is focusing on targets and objectives which are very tangible. And if we can get one of those, that's enough. The rest is, the world will be what it is, not going to change fundamentally. So our ability of our Prime Minister and a lower level also to engage with everybody provides us that platform. Otherwise, you have seen somebody doesn't come for some meeting, somebody doesn't go. Do you know what was the one distinction of the G20 last in Bali? Dubious distinction, not real one. I put so many photographs. Did you find one photograph of G20 leaders meeting in Bali? No, because they decided we cannot meet in a photograph, we cannot agree to it. So you can see how much of animosity is there. They're not even a photograph. They can't stay there and there. So we are in a difficult situation. We need to bring down those tensions by substantive, tangible issues rather than debate on whether this is X, Y, or Z.
So this one is again open to the panel. What do you think could be the role of the youth with the upcoming G20 presidency? Ambassador, obviously you can answer all the questions, but we would also have Professor Rao. Do you think you would take this?
I think there is a big role for youth in this G20 Connect. Because in a short answer, the future belongs to them much more than most of us sitting here. And G20 type of assemblies are for the future. Most of the agenda items would be more deeply connected to what does the youth want within the country and between the countries in terms of technology, in terms of education quality, in terms of generating wealth out of education, in terms of how we can transfer technology to other countries and gain technology to other countries, etc., etc. All these are very well directly connected with youth's aspirations. So therefore, it is but natural that in most of these interactions, youth will come in much more directly than what you and me will think about. What is the model? What are the operational details? I think those things have to evolve. And I think Syed Ali is the right person perhaps to tell us more details, the granularity of how this is done in the mission that we are moving towards. I think he is the right person.
See, it's a very important question. See, what are your stakes in this? Right? That's what you're asking. What are you going to gain out of, understanding G20 process? And you are kind of, it's not so much of role, you have stakes, right? Because you are going to be shaping the economic, political, cultural destiny of this country. Because you're going to study, do jobs in various sectors, and you're going to contribute to the economic growth of the country in various ways. And people can also enter teaching, people can enter research. There are various roles that one can play in the society, including art, right? See, the whole field is open for you, right? So you can contribute in various ways to shape our culture, shape our economy, shape our politics. So that is one. And also at another level of stakes, international level, right? See, India is trying to shape the world order by rephrasing or changing the terms of discourse, right? In the global order, we're trying to talk about global governance, right? With life, values, well-being, and so on. We're also talking about that India is going to be the voice of the South, right? So you also have stakes in shaping the international world order in, again, various ways. We're already doing it. Many of our young people are working in almost all of the G20 countries. There are techies, there are teachers, researchers, and so on, right? So I think that's the kind of stakes you have in the G20 process, because as our chief guest said that you're going to, the G20 process is important for you, right? You must take interest in it, understand it. Understand it because you have stakes in this. Thank you.
So, if I got your third question correct, it was about the federal nature of Indian foreign policy. So, can I direct this question again to you?
I didn't get your question. Can you quickly repeat it? The federal nature, or you had said, I thought that going to Abu Dhabi was as important as going to the G7.
No, sir. I was in recent times after the post-COVID, we have seen more of a multi-aligned world, and multiple writers like Sasi Tharoor, C. Rajamohan have continuously written that the bilateral meetings have become more important because of the self-interest. And for instance, in the last year, during the G7 summit, it was portrayed like that the PM's visit to Germany and for afterwards to UAE, it was more productive than the G7 summit. True.
Okay, I got it. So
I want to know your view on this.
yeah. So I understood your question that you're raising. So bilateral engagement can only improve your ties with one specific country, right? So let me give you one example. Now we celebrate International Yoga Day. What is that day? Right. So if we had gone the bilateral route, how long it is going to take us to get agreements with every country? You went the multilateral route, in one day you got, or in a few months, or a few. Similarly, bilateral has its limitations. It's important, it looks very tangible immediately. But you just look at yourself. If you want to agree with your friend to go and film, I saw this film, yes, it's fine. But if you have to get all of your class together, it takes much longer time. So there's an African saying in Ubuntu, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run in a satisfactory manner, take everybody with you. So always taking people with you is a difficult process. So we don't need to divide these. Both have their role. And sure, everybody, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, worked for 40 years in the UN. Now he feels that bilateral is faster. When he was working in the UN, he didn't feel that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been working. It's simple. But I'm not here to make a judgment call on everybody. There are no black and white in this. There are all shades of gray, and all of you need to remember to see life in those shades of gray. Because some things help in some area, some other things help in some other area. Both have their roles. So it's the same argument. Supposing India and Bangladesh agree on climate change, is it going to change the climate of the region? That's it. So bilateralism has its limitations. Multilateralism has its limitations in the sense horizontally it gets everybody, but vertically it's less deep. So we need both. Sharp.
The new organizations like I2U2 and Quad, initially they look more promising, but they are not delivering that too much.
Yes. Again, just let me close this with one thing. So this is not a new film. So this is an old issue which has come back. You are using a new term, I2U2. This is just started now. But do you remember Bandung conference? How many were there? 30. So now you can say G20 is Bandung conference. Who was the troika in the Bandung conference before? Right. Trito, Nasir, Nehru. What was it called? Three, no? You can call it by any name you want. It's the same thing in international affairs which is coming. You are thinking it's happening for the first time. But we have seen this film played again and again and again. And don't worry, because states have their interests. They play the same thing in different ways. So just keep that in mind, that this is not new. It's an old tradition. I'm certain Professor will quote from Kautilya and give examples of this. It's normal that these things have a long tradition. And we just look at it through our lens and say, hey, this is new. It's not new. BRICS, Quad, I was just told, remember we were talking, BRICS was in 2005. Quad, till 2018, Quad was a bad word. Now, Quad is a popular word. Similarly, these things will happen in cycles, but we need to look through them and say that these are all tools of promoting our interests in different ways. Any tool that helps should be utilized. Diplomats always want to use every tool in their toolkit.
Yeah, we can open another round of questions. Yeah. Please tell your name as well. Yeah.
My name is Rohit. I am from MA Political Science. Hi, sir. I still remember in your farewell speech to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, you ended your speech by saying Namaste. So, what do you think the Indian culture, the role of Indian culture during its G20 presidency?
Good evening, sir. My name is Mahesh from History Department. In initial remarks of our Vice-Chancellor mentioned that our growth model is quite different from any other country. It has less distraction and we have the space for the non-existential things. How our India is going to message on these two things too in G20 presidency?
Good evening, everyone. Sir, I'm Ramya from Department of Communication. Sir, how does the world view India? Right? And as part of diplomacy, can you give a brief picture of the reality? Thank you, sir.
So the role of Indian culture in G20.
I'm certain there are others who can say this better. But Rahul, I will answer your question. Because why I did Namaste was to show that how thoughtful our predecessors or our ancestors were, that they devised ways of greeting each other without transmitting germs. I was in COVID saying bye-bye. So I thought if I say, okay, bye, or I go and meet him, etc., it's not going to convey the same message. That small little clip went for more than 1 million views because there are ways of communicating these things effectively without saying too many words. So that one namaste, the whole clip is, as you saw, 30 seconds. That's all it is. Now, just I will follow up with the other question. Somebody said, how will our culture be promoted? So the essence of promotion of our culture in all this is life. It is not only an economic concept. It's a concept which all the other people who talked here referred to. What is it? What does life mean? It means change of lifestyle for an environmental sustainable livelihood. So it says that Prime Minister alone cannot do it. Diplomats cannot do it. All of you have to do it. So what does it bring in? It brings in young, it brings in democracy, it brings in equality, it brings in our own tradition. Because if you, I am not a very good Sanskrit scholar, but I know of people who say that when they were growing up, their grandparents would say every day morning they get up and they put their feet on the ground and they would say, "Oh Mother Earth, I want to you to forgive me for placing a burden on you," etc. These are our traditions. Somewhere down the line, we have forgotten our traditions. So life is a call to go back to those traditions, but in an updated form. And it means a Jan Andolan, which means everybody can work on life. You don't have to be a diplomat, you don't have to be a thoughtful person, etc. If all of you stop saying, for example, if we say no more bottled water in the campus, there are companies now in the universities in the US saying no Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola has XYZ. So if all of you decide that I'm not going to drink water from bottle, you can see how much of plastic wastage is one-time plastics are going to go into disuse. So there are many things that all of you can do which are in consonance with our traditions, which governments cannot do. All of you have to do. So keep that in mind that if it is one thing, there are many other things I can say. If there's one thing which is unique to India, which no other G20 can initiate, it is life.
We have the last question from Ramya sir. That was, how do you think the world views India? Can we also have Professor Hassan also and Professor Arika?
Yeah, okay. I'm sure you must have been watching a lot of news items, news channels, and so on. And the world, I mean, earlier, the developed nations looked at India as if India consists of people who are sitting on treetops, right? So people who are, very backward and so on. I think that kind of a view is changing slowly because over the last 70 years, we built up our, infrastructure, built up our educational institutions, right? And we also built up our democracy, right? Which is one of the important contributions to the entire world, right? It's a functioning democracy in spite of diversity, in spite of various languages, various regions, and various regional interests and so on. That is still working, right? So diversity is the strength of the country. I think that is one of the important things, messages we should send it across. Now we also know that India has become the 5th largest economy in the world. Now the whole world looks at India differently, right? It's no longer, the kind of view that they had about India some time back, right? So this is how the real the view about India has been changing in the world, and they're recognizing what India can do. Already we have seen what we can contribute in terms of workforce to the world, in terms of research, R&D capabilities in various sectors, right? So it's changing, right?
You want me to say something? Okay. Well, once upon a time, you see, we heard that India, golden bird, no more. But yes, when Barack Obama visited, And then when he said that America is the biggest and India is the largest democracy, whether we should believe or not, half you can believe India is the largest democracy. But about America, I can't say. But I remember, ऊपर से भारत कैसा लगता है, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा.
Thank you so much, Professor Hassan. So, should we take 2 more questions before we conclude? So, great. How many hands do we have? Okay, so we are going to club. So we have 4 hands, 5 hands, and we are going to club the questions. Okay, 6. So let's start with you, and we are going to try and club the questions and keep it short, please.
Sir, like we know, since the start of Russia-Ukraine war, there has been great increase in the prices of crude oil, and it's affecting the economy of mainly South Asian countries. It's decreasing the foreign reserves of countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, even India. So what can India do regarding it in G20?
Good evening, sir. I'm Smarak from Department of Political Science. So ideas and concepts like Vasudev Kutumbakam are a product of a long line of civilizational experience. So when modern India talks of a concept like Vasudev Kutumbakam, do you think the modern world is prepared enough to reiterate and reciprocate such a concept?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abdul Fattah from Department of Political Science. And my question is, there are these countries who are invited to the G20 by India. So is there any yardstick that India has specific with them, any interest with them, or is just based on the recent meetings or something like that?
Hello everyone, I am Shubham. I am from Department of Optometry and Vision Sciences. So in this G20 event, we are talking about diplomats, institutions, and all this thing. So my question is like, how can this G20 event will affect common people? How can like this event will touch their life as well? Like the one who is like doing 9 to 5 job and have no interest in all this thing. So my question is like that. Thank you.
Namaste Anna. I'll like to refer you as Anna because you are alumni. And my name is Dheeraj. I am a PhD scholar in chemistry here. As we all see now, there is a buzz around R movie song being nominated for the Oscar awards. The similar, I think we have from the international cooperation as well as from the Indian point of view, it's a high time to push our science for a global exhibition, and we have to support our great research outputs and push them towards a Nobel nomination as well. It's been a long time we had seen one. I would like know your views on this aspect as well. Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Daksh. It's a common question. I want to ask you that what can be the role of India in global finance, global climate financing negotiations as a leader of global South?
So we're going to start with Vasudeva Kutumbakam, whether it's going to be an obsolete concept.
So purely from a perspective of a diplomat, first thing to leave out is whether this is going to happen or not. We are a country of 1 billion plus. Let's not forget, we are the only example in human history of 1 billion plus people trying to be a democracy. Democracy is never a final goal. We all strive. As the professor said, some gain at a certain stage, some are still striving in different ways. So there is no example like us in the world. The only other country which has our population is China. It is 90% or 95% Han Chinese. And look at all of us. We come from different parts of India, speak different language, dress differently. Every 150 kilometers, our style of speaking changes, yet we are trying to live together. So let's have that confidence that we are unique in Indian history, in world history. So remember, there is a term, somebody is a student from law here, there is a term called sui generis, which means unique. You are all legatees of a unique civilization. Have that confidence that as a experiment which is unique in world history, you will stumble sometimes, you will make mistakes sometimes, but the goal is there is no other pathway for us. And is that relevant? Of course it's relevant. If it's relevant for 1 billion people, in the middle path, we've forgotten ourselves. I acknowledge, mine is a generation which made many mistakes. Yours is a generation which has the tools and the ability and now the thought to try and rectify it. We got lost in the way of too much of materialism, perhaps, because it happens. New converts are the most excited about it. But whether it's relevant, if it was not relevant, it would not have lasted for 1,000 years. You tell me a thing which is not relevant in your life and you still remember it? No, you will forget it and say, move on. So don't ever doubt the relevance of wisdom. So some of you are students of political science, no? So they say there are only 2 original thinkers in the world. Who are they? Plato and Aristotle. Everybody is footnote to that, because one was a realist, one was an idealist. The rest are all similar variants of all this. So 2000 years, still we read Plato. First thing I came here in the university, read Plato. I never questioned, why am I reading Plato 2000 years ago or Aristotle 2500 years ago? So why are we questioning the relevance of a living tradition? We just need to be confident that this is a tradition which has helped us to live in harmony with nature. And that is what sustainability is all about.
So, but why do you think there has been this fascination with the West, especially in the global South and South Asia for sure?
Fascination for?
Just blankophilia, like a lot of fascination with white people following their traditions. In fact, even with Namaste, like just a minor observation, the needless power dynamic that is involved in shaking of a hand, how firm it is, whether it's warm or not, Trump twisting hands and everyone, tweeting about it. And our simple namaste or adab, just a humble gesture, and then you greet and you are, gone with.
So, how many of you have read Gramsci? So, Gramsci, what was his thesis? That cultural hegemony precedes other forms of hegemony. So, if you have had 200 years of Western dominance over the world, their values will prevail. It was not so before. And we hope that it will not be in the future. Your life, as I can say, as an Indian diplomat, where we began, where I am now, I can echo all the things that were said here, that the world views us very differently than it viewed us 30 years ago. We can stand up. Some of you felt that Article 370 was an important part of it. Yes, it's part of our country, but we are the only country which has beaten a P5 member when 5 votes are theirs in a 15-vote contest. This will never happen in the history of any other competition. In 15 votes, 5 are together and one of them is contesting against you. So 5 votes they get, they only need to get another 3 votes out of 10, yet they couldn't get. So India is changing. You cannot see it because you are there every day. We can see it. When I come back to Hyderabad, it looks totally changed compared to what it was before. So just have confidence in yourself that there is nothing, no harm in saying namaste. Prince Charles was also saying namaste when COVID was there. So necessity is the mother of invention. So all of them will realize the validity of these things, but we need to stick to our values. We don't need to give up and say that, no, that's the better form. Okay, diplomats have to do it because that's the form. Someday it will change. And we need to be part of that process of change.
So let me, from the humanities point of view, explain this namaste. Actually, it's not a simple gesture of holding two hands. I am bowing before you. So it has a philosophy behind it saying that Pipilikadi Brahma Paryantam, from a small to miniature to maximum bigger one, everything is important in this universe. And we are part of the universe, that is the message. And as far as this global scenario, what you call it, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So this family is not human family. Humans are only one species among several other living beings on the earth. As such, as our diplomat sir is telling, we are part of the whole nature creation, and as such, it's a parivar is not a unit of human beings or individuals. It's part of the whole creation. That's telling that.
You see, I can recall the day when Junior Bush got elected, and in his first interview, he was asked, how about India? What do you think? What will be your foreign policy vis-a-vis India? I say, you mean Indiana? Remember, but today, such is not the situation. Indian diaspora you will find everywhere, whether America or Canada or anywhere in the Middle East also you will find there are places where, our, the pictures carved through stones, you will find Takhta Jamshid. You see, you go to Persepolis and you will find Indian images there. So therefore, India is expanding, and there are many new localities where Indian newspapers are published, Indian images are there. So India is not just small today, it's too big, you see, with the expansion of information technology.
Thank you. So we'll quickly move on to the second question, which was the economic effect of the Ukraine-Russian war. And so when do you think it's the time that India should be putting its foot down against the relentless aggression of Russia? Because it's eventually the Indian economy in some sense is also suffering because of the war in Ukraine as of now.
So, it's very easy to second guess governments because we're all seated here comfortably. We don't have full information on this. I take the point that it's is a difficult situation for all our neighbors. And it could have ramifications beyond the South Asian continent. So do you know how many countries are now going to the IMF for debt relief? I see ChatGPT is working here. How many countries? There are 193 countries in the UN. How many countries have approached the IMF for a loan of some sort or the other? If we take from COVID start to now, more than 100. If we take now, 30 have been given relief, there are 70 still. So it's a contagion. And there has to be, if India does one thing other than this, if we address indebtedness, it will be a big success. G20 will be known all over the world for that success. So that's the bigger goal. Now, your question about Russia. Frankly, we were talking about hegemony of a media, a viewpoint, etc. These are difficult things to assess that whether Russia is totally only in the wrong. There are American scholars who have said that by pushing NATO westward, you have poked Russia in a manner it had no other choice and that. I'm not getting into the rights and wrongs of that. But let us not forget, we just were told that on the borders there is difficulty for all of us. 70% of our equipment today is sourced from Russia. So it's not a wise thing to alienate everybody at a time when we have difficulties too. So it's a judgment. And we are not the right people to do that judgment because we don't know all the metrics. We must have confidence in governments that they will do the right decisions. Our governments have taken very bold decisions. I had the opportunity to work with Prime Minister Modi, and he always used to tell me, don't hesitate to take risks. You will fail, it's all right, but we will back you when you take risks. So we have a government which is willing to, it's a strong government because they have a large majority, etc. They're willing to take risks. So we need to have confidence. In foreign policy, it is not about individuals. Let's be very clear. This desire for individuals to play a role in foreign policy, whether it's think tanks, writers, etc. It's very nice in the book, in the newspapers to write an article about it. But foreign policy essentially is about states. You looked at it. Out of that, did you find any individual name there? So this is it. Foreign policy, whether we like it or not, will be determined by states and governments. Others play a role on the periphery. Let's not forget that the center of attention in foreign policy will always be the state. Whether we like it, we don't like it, we are happy with it, not happy with it. Let's learn to work within those parameters because that's the only way. No individual, people say, Putin is responsible for this. Putin is not responsible. Russia has fought over Ukraine for hundreds of years when even Putin was not there. So my generic point is that let's have confidence. You have confidence in yourself as a legatees of a big civilization. Have confidence in your governments. I know the default position is, I remember when I was in government, they would say, Sab government mein sab chor hai. I haven't even taken a pie from anybody, but this is the default position. So we need to calibrate our approach to governments and allow them to work in certain spheres where they can do well. There are other spheres that they don't do well, maybe social sphere, etc. and all. And that's where you can have a more role for individuals, NGOs, etc. Where are the NGOs in an international discussion? I know many of you said, how can I play the role? You can play the role by becoming a good diplomat. So I wish you all the best in becoming a good diplomat. It's possible. I became from this institution without these facilities also. There were many of my colleagues, I think Vani, there's another lady who is now in charge of Americas, she became. So there are many who became foreign, this thing in a world when it was not so much plugged. You are all much better off. Have the confidence and you will do well. Gone are the days when India thought we were less than anybody else. Intellectually, you will always be on par. When I joined the Foreign Service, this is what my first boss said. He said, we don't get paid as much. We cannot entertain that much. This is 1980s. But he said, don't ever think that intellectually you are inferior to anybody. And that's what you need to go out with, the confidence that intellectually you are on par with everybody else. The rest is a tertiary thing. Sometimes you gain, sometimes you lose.
So just two more questions which are particular interest to me as well. So first of all, climate finance is going to play a very dominant role in the upcoming summit. How do you think India can contribute towards that, especially the gap which is there in the climate financing as of now, and how India can bolster itself in a higher degree in science diplomacy?
So I'll answer the climate and maybe somebody can take over the science. Yes, the science. So I did only political science, not real science. So the professor can take over it. Okay, so climate finance is for all of you one of the most important things in your lifetime. And I notice, which is good, that all you young people are more environmentally conscious than I was. My generation was. I remember in 1981, African researcher came. So Dr. Shanta Sinha, the Magsaysay Award winner who runs, I think, a big NGO here. She used to be my teacher here. And she called them to speak for us. So we said, what's the issue? He said, environment. And he was comparing between environment approach of, at that time, Soviet Union and West. And you're saying, between capitalism and communism, there is no difference. They all, in different ways, they ignore the climate. And so I was listening and I said, so why am I bothered about it? Because both the systems are not going to function and they're ignoring the environment. I cannot do anything to change it, leave it, I didn't bother about it. But today, when I go to the class, all my young students, they say, sir, environment is the most important thing. So kudos to all of you. You are much more sensitive than we were. You are much more in tune with your roots than we as a generation were. And I acknowledge that. Having said that, I just wanted to mention it because to emphasize its importance. So what is climate finance? Climate finance is to try and structure packages which can enable you to do the right thing from an environment perspective, but not lose money. Because let's be very clear, no businessman will want to lose money in anything. This is very clear. That's the law of economics. I cannot change it. So what can India do in such a situation? So, as you know, governments are too stressed. They cannot add money because we have our own challenges. The question of the US wanting to give more money to international organizations to give you aid is gone. So, you know, if you buy a EV is electric vehicle, how much does the US government give you? Guess. Come on. 6.5, I'll cut now to 6. No. Gives.
5 to 10%.
No, it gives $7,500. You buy a EV for about, whatever, 40,000 or something, 7,500. So they are busy in trying to promote their own. And that EV has to be made in USA. So Europe is fighting, hey, what about my Volkswagen or BMW and all? I will also sell it. Why are you not giving me the loan? They said, no, this subsidy is only for people who are growing. So my bigger point is that they want to help their people, and that's the norm. So we don't expect all these rich countries to do. So what is being thought of is the following. There is a corpus of money everybody gives to the World Bank and the IMF, whatever, X amount in a year. Now, they're not going to increase that very much. Also, they are not going to change the percentage of increase, saying that India, you pay more, I will pay less. They're not going to, because voting is dependent in the World Bank and IMF on how much money you give. This is a new form of democracy. That voting is determined by how much you pay. So if you have, US has 18.5% or 17.5% of the shares. So US vote is 17.5. India has, say, 3%. So India's share is 3%. China has, say, 5%. China's share is 5% vote. And poor Sri Lanka has, I don't know, 0.3%. What is 0.3? So they won't give up those votes. So what is being thought of is, there is a lot of money in the private sector. Because of the COVID, they did not invest, etc. and all. So can we draw in? Till now, money in global organizations only what governments give. Now they are saying, let's open. Reform doesn't mean only membership reform. Reform also is, let's open up new sources of that money coming in. So Gates Foundation, Clinton Foundation, there are many foundations which have lots of money. Similarly, capitalists are ready to give money, saying, let's share the risk. So what they are saying is, if there is a fund of 200 million, which you have presently, I will bring another 500 million. But we will mix the money, yours and mine, so that the risk is shared between you and me, and you will anyway get back the money, because if you don't give the money, you will turn the screws on everybody and get the money from me. So blended finance is the way they want to open up private sector finance mixing with public sector finance in helping countries who are stressed. Similarly, right now, you know, you take insurance. In the insurance, there is a force majeure clause. Do you know a force majeure? Force majeure means that this is way beyond your thing. Supposing you parked your car outside and there was a cyclone or something, the car got washed away. I'm not responsible for it, so you have to pay. So the company will also say, I'm not responsible for it because this is a force majeure. Otherwise, thousands of cyclones and all, unless you insure against cyclone, I will not give you the money. it's not a robbery, etc. So what they want to do is put in a force majeure clause in all loans that if it is on account of climate induced fires, etc., insurance has to pay. So they are bringing in these new concepts which were not there before. And if we can get, if there's one thing, life is a longer term thing, but if there's one immediate thing that this G20 can do is, if they can open up that pathway for private sector finance. You have seen how roads of ORR and all are better compared to what it was. You open up new pathways, the risk is shared between everybody and there is a possibility. So that's my thing, that the big thing that is going to be debated, and it cannot be agreed on if you fight. This has to be agreed by consensus, because we just worked out 85% of the global economy is with the G20. If they all agree, they will go to World Bank and get 80% to 85% of the words finished. And the other 15% are the ones who are anyway going to be affected. They will vote for it. So climate finance is the biggest thing. It is the thing that impacts on all of you. It is the thing of the future. If all of you want to look at one big thing other than life, because life is purely Indian, spirituality, democracy, equality, global efforts, etc. The other thing is climate finance. Sorry for this long, convoluted answer to your question.
Thank you all of you for asking such pointed questions. I hope all of you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
I'll give a short answer about
Please do so. We'll be honored.
how India can contribute in science and technology to G20. I'll share with you the best kept secret of India to G20 is that we produce the best science per rupee spent in the world. The problem is we do not spend enough rupees. If we can scale up our model is the best. With 0.6% GDP that we spend in science and technology, we are already third largest country in the world in terms of products of science and technology. Next only to USA and China. We saw how the mission on Mars probe was produced at the least cost, at least 10 times less than what China and USA had done. The probe that revolved around the Mars. We produced the best satellite images per rupee spent. Similarly, there are many technologies where we brought in jugaad to reduce the cost and have produced the best quality. And many developed countries are watching us. They watched us during pandemic, how we could reach to our 1.3 billion people twice in the succession. With our own produced vaccines, we even exported. So there are many areas where intrinsically India is capable of producing the best quality with very little resources spent, and that is need of the hour for many developing countries. Many developing countries are looking at us as their own solutions from us. And of course, developed economies also are looking at us because we produce the best human resource power in the world. Because we are in that demographic bracket where we are producing very highly skilled young people who will go and take care of their needs in the future. So there are many areas that India is far ahead of other countries in terms of delivering science and technology in multiple contexts.
One not on this, but how many of you are cricket fans? Many, right? So, do you remember when we won the last World Cup? You were small, but how much? Loudly. 2011. So you remember that moment. You were not part of the team, but you remember that moment proudly as an Indian. So remember 2023 as that breakthrough year for Indian diplomacy. Don't worry whether you are part of it or not, because it will have an impact on you. So this is the Dhoni moment of 2011 for Indian diplomacy. Thank you very much.
That was truly a great parallel with Dhoni's victory shot. And I'm glad that we are ending this on such a progressive note on science and eco-consciousness. Over to Dr. Nigam. And closing remarks from Dr. Hari Babu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Syed Ali for moderating this session. Thank you, the panel members, for answering the questions. And thank you, audience, for asking some thought-provoking questions. Getting inspired by this question-answer session, I too have a question for Syed Akbaruddin ji. Nothing related to G20 or foreign policy. Sir, you passed out in 1982. In which year were you awarded the degree, and what was the number of convocation that year? I am giving you 4 options to help you. It was first convocation, second convocation, third or fourth. To help you further, University of Hyderabad has conducted 22 convocations till last year. Now your right choice, sir. Any guesses?
So, if I was so intelligent.
Sir, you were.
I remember it was either 83 or 84 maybe, not 83 perhaps. Because after I finished, I went out to study in Australia to do my MPhil there. So it may be 84, if not...
Sir, you are slightly close.
85 maybe. I don't know. I can't recollect, but maybe it was certainly not the year I passed out. So it has to be some year after that. So maybe you give me some slack and give half a mark.
No, of course, sir, of course. Anyway, sir, the correct answer is it was first convocation held in 1985. But still we give you 10 out of 10, sir. Moving ahead, I now invite Professor E. Hari Babu, former Pro Vice-Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, and Member Steering Committee of G20 University Connect Research and Information System for Developing Countries, for his concluding remarks. Professor Hari Babu.
Distinguished panelists on the dais and the students. So we listened to a distinguished, thought-provoking lecture by our chief guest. He really gave an overview of the whole G20 process. Of course, the details, it could not be done in half an hour, so obviously one has to look up for these details. And he also made a point that the G20 process should be remembered by all of you as one of the important historic days, historic years in our history. And you all are going to be seeing the consequences of what will happen after G20. Let me say that in my intervention, I said, why should you be interested in G20 process? I said, you're all stakeholders, right? You are going to shape the cultural, economic, political destiny of the country. And as India is involved in shaping the world order, you're also going to contribute to that. I think that's how one should see this process. And our chief guest also pointed out that you're going to have a lot of opportunities. With the declining populations in the Western countries, they're all negative growth. There's no population growth. You will have opportunities all over the world, right? To work, to do research, to get into all kinds of occupations. And that is what you should really count on, and you're blessed. Now you're all young at a juncture where a lot of opportunities are there, right? So for that, you should equip yourselves, right, with strong communication skills, strong analytical skills, strong comprehension skills, which will help you to really compete with best minds in the world. That's what we should all be focusing on. And let me say that recently there was a conference in Bhopal where they are part of the G20 process. We had a meeting of T20, the think tank 20 process, where the theme of the conference was lifestyle for environment with values and well-being, right? So these are challenges of understanding what does one mean by well-being, right? So what does one mean by well-being? Is it all objective? Can you objectively measure well-being, right? or are there subjective elements, subjective dimensions of well-being, right? So, for example, well-being also includes happiness, feelings, emotions, and so on. Can you all measure that? Can you measure happiness? Yeah? There are challenges, right? One should really look at these issues. How do you measure emotions, right? So emotions are one's experience, based on experience, one's, the kind of thing that happens to one in life. These kind of things also have to be really looked at. So that's why this Bhopal meeting, there was a session on measuring well-being, right? So can we measure? What are the indices you can develop? What are the objective indices you can develop? So there is also, one should also look at personal narratives of people about happiness. What does it mean by being happy? What does it mean by being, having positive feelings, emotionally positive feelings, and so on. I think these are challenges one should really look at. And so one more thing I should tell our chief guest, recall that how the elements of traditional wisdom are extremely important even today. Let me tell you, see, we got cut off from our traditional knowledge. So it was totally, the idea was that you didn't have anything in the past, right? You had a past but no history. That's not the way that India has survived for thousands of years, right? We had enormous literature in different languages. People contributed to mathematics. People contributed to astronomy. People contributed to economics, statecraft. Lots of people contributed. But our school system never connected us with this past, right, to this traditional knowledge. That I think one should really see how it can be brought back. I'm not saying that we should not glorify tradition, right? So that everything was there and everything, we had aeroplanes and so on. But what is secular knowledge that is still useful in our traditions, right? That should be retrieved. We should still use them. And like, for example, the cultural heritage, which really recognizes the other person, the dignity with which you look at other person is extremely important. There are systems of philosophy which developed, which were developed in this country, trying to see other persons, right? So Advaita system is an important system which tries to, it is I am thou, right? I see myself in you, and I see you yourself in me, right? That's the kind of thing that was developed in this country. And these traditions have to be really are very, very important in today's context. As somebody said, world is fragmented, right? So that's the idea where we talk of one family, one world, one earth, one family, one future. It's more of an ideal kind of ideal we set for ourselves, and we should move towards this ideal, right? So that's the idea, right? So I'm sure you all can also participate in the G20 process. You all young people, you have access to a lot of information. You can start writing popular articles, right? Be critical. Give your ideas. Give your arguments, right? So open up. You should try to write your popular articles in newspapers. Maybe write your campus newsletters, campus magazines. I think one should do that so that you feel you are part of this whole process, right? So I stop here. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I now request Vice-Chancellor to felicitate our guests today, Shri Syed Akbaruddin ji, Thank you, sir. I now request Professor R.S. Sarraju, Pro Vice Chancellor, to felicitate Professor E. Haribabu. And Shri Syed Ali ji. Well, I am reminded about taking a group photograph of the people on the dais as a memory before we all get dispersed. Moving ahead is the toughest part of the day, giving the vote of thanks to those who are present here. A warm good afternoon to all of you. Respected Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji, Professor Syed Ainul Hasan ji, Professor B.J. Rao, Vice Chancellor, Professor R.S. Sarraju, Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor E. Haribabu, Pro Vice Chancellor, former and member steering committee, Shri Syed Ali ji, distinguished guests, faculty members, officers, staff, students, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you is a prayer that cannot be seen or touched. It must be felt by heart. I feel honored and privileged to get the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special and memorable occasion to all the dignitaries and participants who have attended and made this event a memorable and successful. I, on behalf of the University of Hyderabad fraternity and my own behalf, truly express my deep gratitude to respected Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin ji, former permanent representative of India to UN, and Dean Kautilya School of Public Policy, Hyderabad, and alumni, University of Hyderabad, for delivering this special lecture on G20 and role of Indian presidency. And your presence today at this function has immensely enhanced its importance, sir. Besides, we are extremely grateful to you for your insightful address to the faculty, staff, and students. We look forward for your visit again. While you were addressing, it looked like, as we say in Hindi, महफिल उनकी साखी उनका बस आंखें अपनी बाकी उनका. I'm sure, sir, I'm sure we all will remember year 2023 as the importance has been said by everybody. But besides that, I would like to add that we all, at least all those who are present here, will remember this day, 25th of January 2023, when we had an opportunity to hear you, sir. I convey my sincere thanks to respected Professor Syed Ainul Hasan ji, Vice Chancellor, Maulana Azad National Urdu University, for his special remarks on G20 and role of Indian presidency. And he wholeheartedly expressed his pleasure and confirmed his participation for this event. He happens to be our neighbor, friend, and well-wisher. I take this opportunity to express my heartfelt thanks to our Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao, for his address on internationalization and role of G20. Besides the initiative he took in holding this function and make this event memorable, he has always been providing us an able guidance in all our activities, ensuring that we always do the right things at right time on the right way. I express my deep regards to Professor R.S. Sarraju, Pro Vice Chancellor, for the welcome remarks and for his all-round support in all possible manner to organize this event. He has always been there to advise us wherever needed. I thank Professor E. Haribabu, former Pro Vice Chancellor and member steering committee, for his concluding remarks on the event. Shri Syed Ali ji, consultant RIS, for moderating the interesting question-answer session and coordinating and guiding us for conduct of this event on behalf of RIS and University Connect. Thank you for those who all questioned and who got the answers from the panel present here today. I also express my sincere thanks to other esteemed guests, faculty members, officers, non-teaching staff who have taken interest and attended this event. An event of this dimension surely cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling several days in advance. The day we were informed by Syed Ali ji that we have to organize this event on this given day, date, time, with the speaker and the topic. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very strong, motivated, dedicated officers and staff. I express my heartfelt thanks to all my colleagues, officers, non-teaching staff, members who have always stood by us, helped us and motivated us in conducting this event. I am proud and I thank you all for making this event successful. My special thanks to Sri Ashish Jacob Thomas, PRO, and Sri Krishna Ram for making the arrangements at the venue and the other logistics. I am sorry if I have left out anybody. I convey my sincere thanks to anyone if I have missed out. And at the final, thank you all. Thank you very much.